Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN, and today we got a fresh killer with us today. We have an individual who takes a lot of public beatings at times, verbally, maybe vocally, depending on who joins any of the VCs, but a persevered individual that has kept the long, long tradition of EIS going for a while now. And we have the one and only Dark.
Thanks, boss. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
That's right. That's right. Okay, young gun, there is quite a bit that we want to talk about today. However, I first want to start off with, can you, and I always like to do this for the folks at home, right? So they get a little bit of an intro into who the individual is and kind of a little bit of their background. Can you let me know, again, before you played COD, any other kingdom builders you played, for about how long, or maybe another game that was similar prior to getting introduced into COD, and then how did you get introduced into COD?
Yeah, so when I was about 10, I played my first war game. I was about 10 years old. It was a game on the internet called Evony. For some people might know what that is back then.
Oh, I call it Ebony. Yeah.
Evony, yeah. I called it Evony at the time, but I was a kid. Who knows? Maybe I was pronouncing it wrong. But now it's stuck in my head. I called it that for years. So, yeah. So I played a game called Evony. It was good. I really enjoyed it. I put a lot of time into that. I was kind of obsessed with the fact that you could own cities, build troops, that sort of thing was interesting to me. I was really into it, just kind of like I am into these games still now. After I kind of played that for a few years when I was younger, my PC broke and as a kid, I can't buy a new PC. My parents didn't want to. So I just went ahead and moved on to different things. As I got a little older, I saw an app on my phone that said, Evony: The King's Return, and it was a mobile version. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I downloaded that. I played that. I was king on that for 4 years or so, until the game just kept scaling city hall levels over and over and over. And I just got to the point where I didn't want to log in anymore. And that's when I decided it was time to quit. When I opened my phone and felt like it was a chore to enter the game, that's when I decided to quit playing. So I had a 4-year run as king on that game. It was fun. When I had quit, my kingdom actually had a civil war at the time, actually. So we kind of split ways, and because we had a merger with another kingdom, they started merging kingdoms together, and so we merged with the new kingdom. Had a civil war. I ended up joining a different team, and then I ended up getting bored at that other team and just not enjoying the game anymore and quit. And then time went on, and I found a game called Rise of Kingdoms. So then I entered Rise of Kingdoms and started trying that out. Loved the game. I loved the concept of open field fighting and how calves worked, and it was really interesting to me. But as a college student, once I realized you had to, basically pay just to fight any war, especially that early in the game, because you don't have very many troops, and you had to basically resource heal to get all your troops back. There was no free healing in that game. So once I realized you had to put money in to get any amount of long lasting fighting, because I only played like the first season of the game, it kind of turned me off to it. I got king of that server as well. We won all of our wars. I was having fun. That was one kind of thing that turned me off to it. But once we got king, I remember asking people around, like, okay, well now what? Like, are we having like a KVK versus another server? Because our old game had that. Like, and they're like, well, we don't know. Like, we just kind of got to farm and stuff. Let's work together until next KVK. I'm like, wait, we're not gonna go fight anyone else? And they're like, no, we got to wait until like KVK opens and then we work together. And I'm like, well, when's KVK open? They're like, I don't know. Like, maybe like 4 months out from now or something. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna farm for 4 months. So I kind of took my leave from that game. And then I just, went about playing other things for a couple years, and then I checked my phone, and I see from the makers of Rise of Kingdoms that I see CallofDragons. And I mean, all I needed to see was from the makers of Rise of Kingdoms, because I really enjoyed that game. But now this time I had money I could spend too, and I thought maybe I'd spend a little bit of money coming in and enjoy the game more. And I saw this game had a lot of features that were really interesting compared to that, like free healing, And KVK is resetting every time, so the fighting's always constant. I didn't have to worry about, waiting in a home kingdom and farming, waiting for a KVK. And so those kind of things really interested me, and now I'm just super hooked into Call of Dragons.
Okay. And how long did you play Rock?
I only played Rock for a few months. I basically got King in my server, sat on it for a while, and then left the game. I
Okay.
didn't even get to a KVK.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so you come over to COD. What got you into COD? Well, and besides you saying that, I know it was like from the makers of Rock, but was it like an ad you saw? Did some other people recommend
Yes.
it to
Yeah.
you? You saw some gameplay from it first. What, I guess, appealed to you, if anything, beyond just knowing that the makers of Rock were developing it?
Well, that's actually the only reason I downloaded it. I thought I said if it was anything like Rock, I'm gonna like it, and I scrolled. I basically saw an ad on Instagram. I had an ad pop up on Instagram. It was like Call of Dragons from and I was bored at the time. Obviously, anytime you click a game, I was just like scrolling down, bored, and I was like, maybe a new mobile game wouldn't be bad to play. It said from the makers of Rising Kingdoms, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm trying this game. And so I downloaded it, and I know I'm into war games like this from playing Evony, playing The King's Return, playing Rock, and I got in, and I really started enjoying myself right off the bat. I entered a team. I said I'm not going to be leader this time. Whatever, I'll just join a team. It's kind of in my blood to be leader though, because I don't like a lot of the decisions other people's make. So I feel like it's best when I'm making the decisions. So, but I found a leader that I was like, okay, I don't mind the decisions this guy's making. I went and joined his team. Day one of the server, day two of the server came up, and then he basically told everyone he was quitting and going to a new server. And he passed the king over to, or he passed the leader title over to some random guy who was the leader of the sub team he had made, but no one in our team had had any contact with or talked to before. So he came in with leader. We basically talked it over in the, because I was an R4, I was promoted to R4, so we talked it over in our R4 chat and said we think the team should vote on a leader because none of us really know the guy. So no offense to him, we don't know him. And so we had a vote for leader, and I won it. And then I've been leader in EIS ever since day two of the game.
Okay. So you started, and gosh, see now I'm forgetting where EIS was 60. Oh God, I'm forgetting where
We
you
were
guys started.
68 was the
Okay,
first season we ever.
I got the first number right. Okay, I was like, oh God, I got to really dig for this right now. Okay, so you coincidentally started in 68 as your first kingdom, and then it later turned into EIS. So you didn't really go through what could be somewhat of a traditionalist sense, where if you're not doing a project or you don't come in with a group of people, sometimes you'll play one or two kingdoms out, and then eventually you'll kind of land in your spot if things aren't
Right.
really kind of good to do it, or I guess to start off where you can continue playing from there. So you kind of almost got like the best of both worlds on your introduction.
Oh yeah, no, I just got to go into the game and enjoy the first season experience. Like projects in a way, like I get why people do them. You want a good alliance, you want to start off good, but I feel like projects in a way ruin the experience of the first season. Like you don't have to do all the politics, the diplomacy, like who's going to join where, this random power player popping up, who's going to recruit them, can you get them to join your team out of this, like all of that stuff was just so entertaining to me. And I really loved the starting of the game. So, I mean, I feel like some projects can miss out on that because they're just going to be the strongest team on the server by far, and they won't have as much competition because they formed this whole group beforehand majority of the time. We just kind of loaded in, and I just played the game, and it just kind of all went out. I mean, I have enough leadership experience that I've known my mistakes and my successes from the past and how to run a team, so I know how to recruit. I know how to diplomacy. I know like what moves are made. I know how teams are going to react, and basically how players in this game like move and decide to move and what kind of decisions they make. So, which helps recruiting that early in the game as well, right? So, I just kind of load in, took over, enjoyed the game, and played it out.
Okay. So you get to this stage where now was EIS named EIS when you eventually had control, or was it something else that eventually rebranded to that?
No, it was named like either Smiley. I think it was XD was the name of the team. And I took over, and almost immediately I asked the whole team, I was like, does anyone even like this name? Why are we named this? And everyone's like, no, I have no clue why this is our name. And so we had a vote on team names. EIS didn't win, actually. Fun fact.
Oh,
We were voting on. We had a bunch of anime nerds at the time, so everyone was
yes,
voting
my
on a bunch of
people.
anime names. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Laughing Coffin won a PvP group from a show called Sword Art
Oh,
Online.
of course.
So that was, and then we went and looked, and a ton of Laughing Coffin names were taken, and you couldn't spell it any way that looked any good. So we went, okay, guys, we're gonna take the second highest option, which was then Eminence and Shadows, and it had a ring to it. So we went with Eminence and Shadows, made our clan tag EIS, and we went from there.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's interesting. And which again isn't to say that Laughing Coffin is a bad name. Laughing Coffin, I think, is a good name.
Yeah,
And when I had first heard it, when I started watching SAO back in its inaugural season, it was pretty epic. You were just like, oh my god, that's such a good name
yeah,
for like
yeah.
an
It was just,
evil group. Like it just but okay, cool. So a little bit of backstory there. Awesome. Okay, so you become EIS. When you started out, what because again, before we get to some of, obviously some of the more interesting topics too as well, what what was the build out process like for you when you initially became R5? What were your kind of initial priorities when it came to like, okay, this is what I need to take care of first, second, third? What was that process like for you in the beginning? And then what were some of the first couple things you felt like this is what I need to tackle right now?
yeah. So the first thing is, I mean, that early in the game, the number one thing you can ever do, doesn't matter how you manage your kingdom, is recruiting. So I knew as soon as I took over, like I need to go out, go look in these other teams, find teams that aren't as organized, find teams that don't have as active leadership or as high powered leadership, because that matters that early in the game as well. A lot of people will dip out of like free to play leaderships that early in the game when they're spending, a little bit of money getting, a million power and their leaders like 200K. A lot of times they'll look to leave. So what I started doing was I started dipping in all these other teams and sending recruitment messages to people saying, hey, I've led games in other servers. Why don't you come over and try EIS? And it helped that we had a couple of, players over a million power, which was a lot at the time. One of them went to leave when the leader stepped down, and I reached out to him and convinced him to stay, telling him about my background. Um, and so then I reached out to other teams and started recruiting all over. They came, and then basically just encouraging activity in our team. We had a merit requirements early on, like making people really be active and play the game. We're like, hey, this is a competitive team. If you want to stay, you have to be online and play. And it's very important that early in the game to kick all the people that are even spending one day offline. Because when you're in the first 1 week of the server, if you're a whole entire day offline, you're probably not as invested as everyone else. So it's you very quickly you want to kick and replace these people, bring new ones in that are active. You keep the alliance really active. Have these merit requirements when you're fighting to keep them in line and keep the best people. And then when a team starts having overall activity, more people are then attracted to your team too. And when you reach out and recruit, they're more likely to join you.
Okay. Okay. No, I think all good points, especially for after setting. Now, who are some of the, I guess, some of the longest standing people that you guys have had? Is there anyone that's still a part of EAS that has been with you since you became R5 or during that kind of inaugural season?
Um, when I first came R5, I don't think there is anyone. I
Okay.
had one player who just quit last season, who was with me from literally when I was voted and took over R5.
Damn.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, so one player left, I think. If there is one more, I apologize for forgetting you, but there's a lot of names.
Damn, you are
There's a
not
lot of
worth
names
a
in there.
name mention.
Yeah, no, but there's a lot of people from there's still a
Yeah.
good chunk of people from season one,
Okay.
but not from day one of taking over R5.
Yeah.
I think there was one guy left and he's gone. We had some people that came very shortly after. Godzilla's still here. He came in like zone two of the first season, so there's been a lot of people here from the very beginning. My R4 drunk has been here since the end of season
Yeah.
one.
Shout out to Drunk.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, we still have a good amount of people that have kind of been around since the beginning, and
That's
I mean,
cool.
until this season, really. I mean, it's gotten to a point where the game's kind of taken a dip and been more boring or getting tedious for people, and so people have been slowly quitting the game. When we first migrated to our new server in EIS, I would say about 60% of the team was still people here from before season 2. So quite a lot of people were here since the very, very early of the game. Now I say that number might be as low as, 30, 40% of the team has been here since, especially after this season, because several seasons either got kicked or said they can't keep up anymore and are going to go do other things. So I would say about 30 or 40% of the team of EIS would have been here since before season 2.
Okay. Okay. So you got some decent OGs then that are still
Yes.
hanging out with the group. Okay, awesome. So now fast forwarding to you getting to a point where you felt like, okay, it is time to do a rebuild. And you guys end up moving from 68, you go to 176. Can you walk me through what led up to that and what were some signs or things that were happening? And along with maybe anything that, any other solutions that might have been exhausted at that point. But
Yeah.
basically, what culminated in the build up to saying, okay, this is the only solution left at this point?
I mean, yeah. I mean, people kind of call it a rebuild, so I just run with it and call it a rebuild build for simplicity's sake. But it wasn't really one. Like we didn't have anything negatively happen where we're like, okay, we need to reset and go rebuild our kingdom. I mean, the game kind of forced us to rebuild our kingdom the way it went. And some people will claim, oh, I didn't force you because you recruited the players. But I think you don't remember the first season global opened. They allow us. They had no cap on migration. Any amount
Mm-hmm.
of players could join the server. It was just pure green. Like TFS went up to 38 build power.
The
We were
no cap
32 build
migration
power.
season. Yeah.
Yeah. So we thought, like, we've always been about not necessarily having all the Krakens, and we cared about activity. So we went out and we brought in a bunch of people that seemed like really active players, because we thought the game was expanding into something that might have like two kingdoms, like two alliances per kingdom. So we were preparing for that, trying to get two teams built out. Because that just, with all that space, I just assumed that's kind of the path they were taking with the game. And we had a lot of interest to join EIS. So we went out and we grabbed all these people and we started forming two teams. And then the next season, they cut the cap. So we were extremely high above the cap. Like, I'm talking 8 billion plus power above the cap they had then set it to. And really, that negatively impacted our server badly. We were still very competitive. We had a lot of active people, but just with the nature of this game, every season you're going to lose some people to real life, or just not as interested in the game anymore, or whatever it is, or you're going to lose people over time. So they lose interest, they lose activity levels in the game. And so every single season, all we can do is get weaker. We can't get any stronger because we can only recruit 3 people every season. So we knew at that point, eventually we are going to have to move. We don't really have a choice if we want to, stay alive, because we're going to keep losing and losing and losing people and not be able to bring any new active fresh blood, which honestly brings a spark to the team and brings some excitement when you get some new people into the team and new faces. So it was basically a bleeding process at that point. We're like, okay, we're going to play with our team as long as it's good for a few seasons. Everyone starts saving passports. About 3 seasons from now, we're probably going to move. And it did happen exactly like that. In 3 seasons, we moved. Um, so I'm glad I was able to warn people to save passports and do things like that. But it was just kind of inevitability that kind of came from the decisions the devs made to cut the cap. It was just something we were always going to have to do, because every season we were just going to shrink, 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 and not be able to bring any new people in. Even with they didn't have a way to discharge people too. So anyone who quit or was dead weight in the server, if they log in their
Mm-hmm.
account at all, which people were doing plenty, they're just sitting in the server, not helping with KVK and counting against our server. So there was just too much of that to even stay. It just wasn't possible.
Yeah, I can. I was having a conversation with someone else a little while ago. We were talking about, basically how to kind of address some of the challenges there and how early on, with the way that they had migration set up, it really wasn't, and just kingdom restrictions as well. It was very limiting on what
Yes.
you were able to do. and then what options you had when it came to how you manage, but two, on recruits that you could bring in potentially. And so for me, my whole, obviously it's a little better now than, at least compared to what it
Yes.
was.
It's
But
a lot better now.
yeah,
I want to give some props to the devs that I think it came way too late. I think they should have listened to us way sooner because we mentioned things a
yeah,
lot sooner, like 4 seasons sooner. But it did come, and it is good for the game. I think it might be a little too late because a lot of people have quit since then. But I'm glad to see some changes going in that direction to make things better because it is a big, significant, great change of the game.
yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, when you look at the fact that, just honestly, from them, even at minimum, just being able to add in something like you can now remove players from the kingdom,
Yes.
it makes it, the thing is, when you have a feature like that, it more so benefits your kingdom if you are kind of in your earlier stages rather than you're already developed. You've already done multiple migration waves that have been coming in,
Right.
and now you just have more people that you potentially have to filter out, especially if you have more dead weight than less dead weight. It's just that much more work you have to do. And I remember I was talking to Blood Rena from ROG, and she was telling me about when we had a conversation about like her first, her kind of completing or about to complete her first wave of their expulsion project, and just how much effort went into that because they had so many people, or at least a decent amount, a healthy amount of people that they were hoping to kind of get off the kingdom, so that way it wouldn't inflate any of their stats and help them for better
Yeah.
kvk match. It's just, it makes sense, and you don't have these tools that you can utilize for your kingdom. And it's one of
No.
those things that I talk about, that I love talking about so much, which is the kind of kingdom management aspect of the game. And this area, I feel, is one of the most, like, just, it almost just kind of feels like the dark sheep of the family. Like, it's just not something that you hear a lot of people really talk about publicly. And for me, it's always been something that I've really believed in, because I've done a lot of these things myself, and I also know what goes into it and how impactful it can be, especially for someone like you and other R5s in your management teams, and just the stress level and just how much work you have to
Yeah.
put in. And the fact that in most cases, it really is a thankless job that you're doing. So I'm always telling people, like, listen, man, you see your R5, you see your R4 hanging out in chat, shoot them a DM and just say, man, I appreciate you. Thank you for your efforts. Thank you for your time that you're putting in, because it goes a long way. At least I like to
It
believe so.
does. Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, no, it does go a long way when people do that. I mean, it is a lot of work, and the devs really made it even worse to be in leadership or an R5. I mean, I think you're kind of seeing it now with a lot of the teams are you're struggling to find leadership in the game. I feel like there's less and less and less teams around and less people willing to be in leadership, and people just don't want to do it. Like the way kind of the game has been set up has been very anti-leadership friendly. We don't get paid to do this. We put a lot of effort in, and they make it really tedious on the game. I mean, for example, the meta nowadays, if you want to compete, is you have to have multiple shells going into a KVK. So you have to have like 4 shells. Now, granted, again, they made some great changes to make it a little easier on us, like priority lists. So when we switch shells, everyone can just swap to the other shell and get
Mhm.
instantly accepted because their
Especially the
name's on a
recent
list.
update where they really fixed it and did it the way people wanted it to be done.
Yeah, and now you can now even R4s can be put there, so it makes less work for me. So that's even better. But like before, my all of my R4s had to get pinged all. I had multiple R4 step down because R4s are getting pinged all day. Accept me in this shell. Accept my farm in this shell. Hey, I'm moving here. Like R4s had to constantly switch, log in to farms and each and what shell and place flags and start tech and accept people. And man, it's just a super tedious task that no one wants to do. And they make you do all this really annoying work with the shells, especially when you're going into a war. Now you need to swap people to the shells, tell people to log in their farms and start building the flags in the farming shell. And you still have to do that, but at least you can swap a little easier and don't need to accept and deny everyone. And so those kind of things make it very inconvenient to be in leadership. I mean, a lot of people, like we've recruited a lot of people who came from leadership teams too, and I'm a guy who likes talent, and I see some of them have it, and you start poking around if maybe they could help out in leadership, or maybe they'd be interested. And their instant answer is always no, no, no more leadership. Don't want it, because they were like, I just did that. Please, I want to relax, and that's the sentiment a lot of people bring from that position.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the most prominent or most public ones that happened recently from a kingdom that was considered to be, a strongish kingdom was pay to win, and their leadership team
Yeah,
had left and went over to join TFS and 40, but they were like a strong, and the other one probably would have been UHA, with them kind of disbanding,
yeah,
right, and their leadership, having some things that were going on there where, now you have kind of two. And again, these were like some well-known kingdoms, right? Even if they weren't necessarily
yeah,
at the very top of the top, they were well-known enough. People knew who they were. And again, to your point, right, there was a factor of leadership, management burnout that
yep.
went in.
It's
It
a
went.
big thing right now.
So it's, yeah, and for me, that's always, it's just like, to me, it's, and I often make that comparison when I talk about this, where I'll say, like, listen, the leaders are like your store managers, and the company is, like the Farlight is the company, and your R5s are your store managers, and your officers are like your department leads, or your R5s are like your district managers, and then the R4s are your store, like however you want to make it easier to understand. If you want your business to be successful, you need to give the tools and the resources to your store managers, and then that they can then trickle down to their department or team leads. Like, that's kind of how you
Yep,
have to look at it, is you need to look at them as like they are really a part of it, because they're, to me, has always been, the management teams for kingdoms and alliances have always been such a huge influence on player activity, whether or not a player will continue playing the game or not, whether
yeah,
they may
it is.
consider quitting, whether they want to migrate out. All of those things could potentially have ripple effects in a kingdom and
Yeah.
for that alliance.
I mean, anytime a kingdom falls, there's going to be a good chunk of players who just decide to quit the game instead of going somewhere else. I
Uh-huh.
mean, and you're running out of options on where to go somewhere else because there's such a lack of leadership teams that no one wants to do it, and that's a big problem. If you have no leaderships, the game can't run. The way they set up the game is you have to have leaderships to even play the game,
Yep.
and someone has to be doing the work. I think it'd go a long way. The convenience things they do for leadership needs to keep happening, and it's a big help because it reduces the burnout of them. And I even think like R4s and stuff should get extra rewards, honestly, because the amount of work, at least my R4s have to put in, is astronomical. Like I think the game should probably try to put a system in where if you're in leadership, you get rewarded. I mean, they can figure out the rewards themselves. Hopefully, it's more than 100 gems and a gold key. Something that actually
Yeah.
makes people want to step in and go, okay, maybe I will try leadership. Like I'll at least get this every week or every month, or something like that. Maybe some sort of incentivization to make people want to do it, along with the just convenience of it, because we need more leaderships built up in the game, and so more teams can survive and thrive.
Yeah, because from what I understand, and you can correct me if I'm forgetting something, but I believe the only thing that you can really give to them at the moment is the king's gifts,
Correct.
and then I guess maybe they can earn stuff from the upcoming alliance bounty system that is going to be in, but that's not really like something that you can give them.
Yeah,
They
it's
have to
not.
earn that
No.
by putting some time
Yeah.
in. But yeah, so I mean, I thought they had referenced, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I thought they had mentioned something about maybe doing alliance gifts that you could dish out in some Q&A or dev feedback, but now I feel like I'm 50-50 on that one. But I thought I had maybe read something at some point of them saying that they might have done it, but I guess overall, regardless, at the moment, it really is just the king's gifts there. And I think, to your point,
Yeah.
being able to have some kind of, maybe even, for example, they have more than 4 or 5 titles, right? And then that way everyone gets a title. Maybe you can double up on titles, as an example, so it's not just one title per. So,
Yeah.
just other things that maybe they can. But I do agree with you that I think there are other creative ways that they can do things that can still make it beneficial, because I think, to your point, you're absolutely right. There's not enough incentives that are being provided for a management team as they should be. So
Yeah, as an individual, it's only a negative to get in leadership unless you enjoy the extra work. It's just more work
yeah,
for you.
yeah.
You don't
Unless you
need to
enjoy
rely.
the
Yeah,
constant complaining and bitching and moaning,
the
and
the grind, having your R5 tell you they want a data sheet within the next hour.
yeah.
Anything like that. You definitely it's stressful to step up and a lot of work in everyone's eyes. So I think more people would be willing to do it if they got like a substantial amount of reward from being an R4 per se.
Yeah. No, agreed. Okay, so I want to go now to you guys make the move. You're in 176. You're getting on with your rebuild slash reinvigoration of okay, we're building out 176 now. We had a group that started and came with us. Up until now, which again has been what I can only imagine maybe your guys' largest seasonal migration that you've had come in so far. Before we get to that, what was, because again, you guys kind of almost did a little bit of like, what we've been seeing from other kingdoms, probably most recently and most notably, like the kind of slow build TFS 40 approach where they go from there to 23 and just say, look, we're not going to recruit massive numbers. We're going to kind of take a little bit more of a slow and steady approach. So over multiple seasons, they kind of build up to where they are now, right? Despite obviously the recent um, outgoing of players. What was that like for you to kind of see, and what was the approach in your eyes, in case it's different than kind of what I'm saying, for how you guys got to this point before this recent migration?
Sure. At least for our team, EIS is a very competitive team. So we knew at the start we're perfectly fine with being, 150 people and being a less large kingdom as long as the average member and everyone's contributing and active. So I think the thing with us is like matchmaking screws you if you have a bunch of people in your team that aren't doing anything. All those people count for how strong you are. And if they're not contributing, it's just going to make your matchup that much harder to win. And all the people at the top are going to have to do even more work. So I think at the bottom line, like the thing for us wasn't how fast or how slow we recruit. It's just accepting the right people when they apply. Don't just take people to get extra bodies. I mean, having too much recruiting is a bad thing a lot of the times if you're not getting the right people. I mean, this season everything just kind of clicked. I didn't expect to get this big of a recruitment. It's just that enough people that I felt were quality players applied that it happened that way. If they weren't quality players, we wouldn't have as many recruits coming in. I don't care if it's only 8 good recruits coming in and we have 50 applicants of maybe people who just are slightly under our standards. I just won't accept them because I feel like that hurts our matchmaking, and a lot of the top players who do put a lot of time in this game don't like to go look at the bottom and start blaming other people for not putting in the effort they put in. So I always am very clear when people apply to EIS, we're super competitive. You need to put a lot of time in to be in this team. And the number one most important thing to us is activity. So really, I think you kind of see it with some of the teams. Like I think with TFS and WAO, they both recruited like 70 plus players and got massive power gains. And they got matched with Rage and WB, who are the strongest camp that there could be because they kind of over recruited players. I think both teams had recruited several really, really solid, good players. And I was looking, I mean, I watch recruitments very closely as a leader. I have to keep up what's going on in other teams, and about half of each of their lists were people I would accept in my team, and then about half in each of their lists are people I wouldn't even think of taking. They just kind of seem to be recruiting numbers to stack up power as much as possible and be as strong as possible. But in my opinion, that really hurts your kingdom, and people who are top fighters don't want to see people not contributing at the bottom.
Yeah. Okay. So take me through this then. Take me through when you guys are looking at recruitment. Are you mainly handling that? Do you guys have a recruitment team or a department that takes care of that?
We have a recruitment team that I kind of ask opinions to, and they post in there people who might be interested. But at the end of the day, I basically do all of the recruiting. I have the final say on who comes in, and typically, even if they have someone who's interested, they just send them to me. And then if I'm unsure on someone or I want opinions on somebody, I send them in to the chat and ask for all their opinions on the player. Then we have a discussion on it. But at the end of the day, I'm almost doing all of the messaging. I'm almost doing all of the questioning, and I'm almost doing all of the final decisions on the players.
Okay. Now, from there, is there any form of like background checks? Are you looking at like what they did last season? Are you speaking to any people, or is it really like are you going farther back than a season? Are you speaking to other people,
Yeah.
friends or management that they played with in previous seasons? Or is it really only for maybe some of the questionable ones where you might do a little bit more digging?
Yeah, if there are questionable ones, I definitely do extra digging. I mean,
Okay.
there's some people where I need to put in less effort questioning because their statistics just show like they're a good player, right? Like when I have a I mean, like when Fluffy Waffles joined, I didn't even have to question. I didn't have to ask him questions, you know. I just
No,
had to
no,
go.
absolutely somebody
Well,
you should
of
question.
course,
Don't
it
let him
accepts
slide
you.
at all. So,
Yeah, I asked him why he wanted to join EIS and a couple of questions, but I mean, Alibaba, I didn't have to ask questions either because I was
yeah.
aggressively going after him for the last 5 seasons. So I've been in his inbox for a while now, and we've had plenty of chats.
Sliding into
I
those DMs with the baby oil.
yeah,
We got you.
sliding into his DMs, and I told him he's been dodging me for 5 seasons. Time to come. Um, and so we those kind of players, it's more obvious. Even around like 40 mil merits, I mean those guys are probably extremely active players.
Yeah.
You do sometimes have to question in today's game because there's a couple players at the play style like. Did they farm these merits? Like, did they just log into people's farms, put troops out, and kill them? Did they go out and earn it themselves? So if we ever think it might be questionable for a player, we will reach out to people who might know them, or we will reach out to leadership. And with a lot of recruits, I do ask for people's opinions. I go find, I'm like, what teams have you been in? They name teams. We have people from all over the game. I'm like, I'll go to people who have been in those teams in my team. And I'll go, hey, do you know this player from that team? And a lot of the times, if they say yes, they'll know whether to give their opinion on if they're a good player, if they're active, and I'll get background information on, oh yeah, this person's in VC a lot, they use tanks, or this person's kind of active, or oh no, that person like doesn't play at all, just kind of logs in and kills farms, and so you can kind of get that information out of people a lot of the times. And then I even have people, they're always trying to go out and recruit their friends, right? So someone will come to me and be like, hey, I have this friend who really wants to join. He's a great player, and they'll pitch him to me. And then I go talk to the player, I'll interview him, ask some questions, and finalize if we want to do it or not.
Okay. Okay. What is your stance on whether and I say this knowing full well that I mean, listen, at the end of the day, it is a part of the game, but what is your stance on piloting? Uh,
Piloting,
Are
I
you
mean,
looking for more people that just purely actively play their accounts? There's none of that going on, or you're like, listen, it's kind of understood like this is just a thing that happens, and yes, it can help at times, and there are some pros and cons to it. Where do you land on that?
I mean, yeah. So, obviously, at the end of the day, all we care about is if someone's account is performing,
Okay.
what their account is doing. But that's kind of why we have some like rules in place too. Whereas it's all cool and all, but at the end of the day, your own account needs to perform, and your account comes first, and your account has to be your main priority. And we only care like per account what people are doing. But like that's why we have a one account rule. There's only a one account per player rule. Like some people own multiple accounts, and they did in our last kingdom, and it kind of inflates your power because a lot of people can't play both accounts at the same time. So if you have someone who owns 3 accounts, they're only on one of those 3 accounts at the same time. So we have a rule one account per player. So if they're bringing an account over, there has to be a sole entire one person at least that only plays that account. We don't want people who have like one account or have 3 accounts per one person because that diminishes your field presence.
Okay. And to be honest, actually, I think that's a good answer to that because by you limiting or restricting the amount of accounts or the amount of main accounts that you allow in, especially for a certain player, it probably also reduces the likelihood that something like flying or having as many pilots or planes is required because everyone is kind of only basically bringing in their main or potentially the account they care about the most. So
Right.
it feels like there's probably more of an emphasis at that point to
Yeah.
play
Yeah.
it themselves.
Yeah, we have multiple people who applied that have multiple accounts, and they basically got told, hey, like that's all good, and I understand you want to play that way. If you do, another kingdom will be better suited for you. If you want to join EIS, you can pick one and come join, but we're not going to take, 2 3 accounts per player, and a lot of the times they'll leave their account behind and come join EIS with their favorite account.
Okay. Okay. So now let me fast forward a little bit here. Now we get to what is, I mean, let's just say, I mean, this is a massive recruitment season for you guys. And
Yeah,
I would argue probably is your biggest since coming to 176 that you guys maybe had so far.
yeah.
How and I know you said before, you briefly mentioned that you didn't necessarily anticipate or expect. Can you walk me through maybe some of the early stages of like when you started to notice, like, okay, this is like a decent size, and then some things just started happening, some movement was shifting. Maybe you start getting some updates, you start hearing from other people that are on the recruitment team, and now the number is getting bigger and bigger, and it's basically exploding. How was that build up from the beginning to where you are now?
Oh boy, boss, you're gonna get me in trouble with this question.
And you can
Um,
answer however you want. Again, it can be as
no, 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 I'll
broadly
answer.
or
Yeah,
generally as you like.
yeah, I'll answer. I mean, I knew pretty early that there were a lot of players unhappy in their teams that were like, I knew coming into the season, like from last season, I think we got zone one locked on that, unfortunate KVK where
Yeah.
BTX and Echo were allies. So we were sitting in zone one with a lot of time to reflect, and I talked to Jack and them in RAC, whose team kind of struggled, and they watched us play on the field, and that happens in a lot of KVKs. A lot of our allies watch us fighting on the field, and a lot of their players might not be totally happy in their team, and they'll reach out and say, "Hey, I saw you guys play. I see how active you are, and I want to be a part of that." And so we'll have a chat, and they'll come over. So we had a good recruitment, even though we had such a terrible loss with Jack coming over, Kaido coming over, and the Angries, and we had a good recruitment with that, and it's fresh blood. People are excited, and that's kind of how EIS recruits, even in a bad KVK. I mean, just our community's top tier, our activities top tier. When people actually watch us and take a second to go watch KVKs, and they spend a lot of time watching, they'll see it. So that kind of helps itself. So I knew deep down that this next season was going to be a massive recruitment for us because I saw TFS over recruit, I saw WAO over recruit, I saw a lot of bad decisions being made in leaderships, like that were matching them against Rage and WB, taking high-powered B teams, recruiting people I really questioned on whether they should be recruiting or not. And so deep down, I just knew that something was going to happen with one or more of these teams next season. And so I just knew that it was going to come. So I was already working on some people in these teams. I mean, I messaged Fluffy several times throughout the season, and he goes, "No, man, I'm staying in the TFS. Thanks for the offer." I was like, "All right, well, all good." So, and I knew Roots of War League was coming up, and we have an extremely good Roots of War team, so I knew that would attract people as well. And I was super excited for that. But Alabama I'd been working on for multiple seasons, and I know he's a super competitive guy, just like I am. So I knew at the end of the day that if his team wasn't playing to a competitive level and was being more casual, he would join. And he kept putting me off every season, but I kept staying on him. I go, you want to
Kept
be in
playing
a
hard
more
to get.
competitive team. Yep. He was playing hard to get, exactly. And then he finally gave in and said, "Okay, you win. I'm coming." So he's here now, and and then Fluffy reached out to me. I had poked at him a couple of times. He said I'm staying in TFS, so I didn't push too hard out of respect because Fluffy's a guy where he's gonna go where he knows he wants to be. So I just mentioned like, "Hey, heard there were rumors you're leaving. Like anything to this?" He goes, "No, I'm staying in TFS." And then as things progressed, I think his opinion kind of changed based on like activity levels and stuff. And he basically reached out and said, "Hey, I'm really interested in playing in Roots of War League. I've talked to these other teams. Like, does EIS have spots in your row team? Or do you guys have spots in your server? How many spots do you have for my team, for my group that would want to come over?" And so we just had a chat from there. And I didn't expect Fluffy to reach out. That was news to me. I did expect Alabama to be in our team. Um, just because I had been working on him so long and I know him quite well, so I kind of expected it to happen. XM5 is another guy from TFS that I've been working on for seasons and seasons. I mean, a lot of these recruits, especially at the bigger players in the groups, they're people you work on for like 4 or 5 seasons until something just doesn't work in their team and they decide they want to leave.
Mhm.
And then I'm in that position from talking to them from seasons and seasons past where I'm one of their top options, and it just kind of goes from there.
Yeah. Okay. Um, so as far as you finally figuring out that it's like, damn, okay, there's this amount that's coming from just kind of I guess a leadership and a management perspective, having that much activity that just kind of booms from this small number and now it balloons, I guess probably better word to use, into a bigger one that you're having come as influx. What kind of flexibility, like when you, because for me, if I'm leading and it's like, man, my brain just starts firing on all cylinders. Like, man, I could put people here, put them there. Like,
Yeah.
oh man, I could fill someone in here. And it's like, you just start learning about like what everyone can contribute. What goes through your mind when, at least with where you're at now, with the amount that you have coming, you already have a good amount that have come in. I know from what you've said, but there's still more on the way. What opportunities for how you see things does that give your alliance? Does that give the kingdom?
Oh yeah, well, anytime you have like really active players join your kingdom, it's always exciting because everyone wants extra numbers on the field. Everyone, I mean, the most important thing also is like community in this game. Community is a big thing, and we have a really good one in EIS. So I think a lot of the players are just really excited right now because a lot of the new players coming in have been chatting all the time. Like our chat's extremely active. Like Discord, the new people are coming in and getting involved. They'll join VC. They'll type messages in there. So everyone doing all of these socialization things because we're not at war yet. They can't come out and fight with us. They're stuck in zone one. So we're just having a good time chatting, getting to know everyone. And that starts making things exciting. You start learning, so and so worked on the data team for this team. So and so worked on the build team for this team. So and so was a role lead at this team. And then you start like picking their brains and seeing if they might be interested in helping out around your team or what they know or what those teams did for theirs. And you learn a bunch of information. So it's really exciting to find people who might fit into those new rules. Getting them added to the Row League is a big part. So I think that was the biggest part for us this season. When you ask about what starts going through your brain about where we can use this people where, I think it starts going down to like, especially in Row League, that was a big focus for us. So we're like talking about, okay, can we put this player in here? This player has more calves than the player we had before. What position can we put them in? How can we utilize them? What role will they be in? And so there was a lot of work that went into all of that, along with who has leadership experience, did they do building, etc. And so you start putting all these pieces into play, and then it becomes even more exciting. You're like, okay, new person on the build team, new person on the data team, new people on the row team, and it starts to kind of click right off the bat with all your new people. It is an exciting thing coming in. It gets the whole team excited.
Man, no, absolutely. I think you're hitting multiple nails on the head for me too as well. It's yeah. So I want to transition to kind of maybe round out with the road league. So this has obviously been a big talk recently, not only on the
Yeah.
COD Discord, but amongst just a number of people talking about how during this migration phase, because of the refunds that are coming in from the update, along with, or excuse me, from
Yes.
previously, and then along with the adjustments that they've made as well, to permits being a little bit more accessible, right? This has probably been this last migration permit change has probably been the most impactful as of late. With that
Correct.
being said, there's obviously more flexibility. Kind of, I was joking with someone earlier. I was like, man, it kind of takes you back to like the last 5K gem migration that they
Yeah.
did,
Well,
right?
in a way, you're right. Yeah, in a way,
A-
you're right.
And it just because there's just that much excitement and there's going to be that much movement that potentially happens
Yeah.
this season that probably hasn't happened for a while. And so because of that, Row League has obviously came up as a very popular topic. And there's been talk that quite a few people, and potentially maybe the majority of migrations, or maybe at least maybe 50% or more, are happening this season due to Road League, where people are trying to reappropriate themselves into maybe where their priorities or where their focus is. How do you view that? Because again, I know from my time playing Rock, there's some kingdoms that have a little bit more of a KVK focus, and Ro's kind of second to them. And then there's some
Yeah.
kingdoms that have more of a Ro focus, and KVK second to them. And then obviously there's some that try and do the best that they can to balance. Where do you see that as far as priority, as far as like how you kind of envision that with wanting to, I imagine what like anyone would, trying to offer the best of both worlds?
Oh yeah, we're balanced. I mean, no one here like I said, EIS is all about activity. I mean, we even have some really smaller players that we don't plan on replacing in our team that just perform every single season, and they do what they can for their power level. They're always online. And that's the most important thing to us at the end of the day. Like some of these teams like Nor, Echo, I mean, someone will start naming us because we had so many big players came in. And we kind of left our space open in advance, knowing something like this would happen at some point, to accept these kind of people. Because I'm more so as where when you kick people, we're more willing to we're going to keep them after they're here is kind of how I feel. They're part of the community. And then if they don't do their job, that's when we'll kick them. So even if they're lower power, if they can keep up, if they can do what they need to do every season, they're going to stay. I'm not just going to kick them for a higher power, stronger player. So at the end of the day, that'll cap how strong EIS can get, because I don't plan to us to just be a pure Kraken alliance. The most important thing to me is activity. Now, if it works out that way, because the bottom players just start being less active or can't keep up for whatever things, I mean, maybe that'll happen. I don't see that happening because we still have plenty of people here since season 1, season 2. They do their job every season. We keep them. So I think it comes down to we're overall balanced in the KVK because we only care about how much activity people are going. So people in EIS should have the activity to both focus Row League and play the KVK at the maximum potential. Now, before, if you're in a war during KVK, you're not going to Row unless they're like if you're getting pushed or something. I think, and with Row League coming out, I think every team will instead go to Row, for that
Yeah.
hour and focus up on Row. So the game will change in that way, but it's only an hour every week, and then other than that, you're just going to go back to fighting in the KVK. So we'll be focusing on both.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, I guess lastly, I want to ask, what is your, and again, maybe this is a little bit early of a prediction and an expectation. What is what are you looking forward towards for Row League? And do you have a hopeful prediction on where you would like to see your top team place? Because again, you can now have what I believe it's up to 6 teams that you can have now
Yeah,
for Row. So again, I imagine everyone's going to have a first string, second string, third string. It'd be unlikely for everyone to try and purely balance out every single Row team they can. I mean, maybe they could
right.
try, of course, but I'd like to imagine it's probably going to be something like that. Firstly, is that going to be your guys' approach? Like, yeah, we're going to have kind of a first string, second string, third string, and then what's your expectation for your top team in the first season?
Yeah, my expectation for the top team is definitely a top 4 ranking for the skin.
Okay.
I mean, our team's 14 and, or they're either 14-1 or 15-1. I'd have to ask my row lead. We've only lost one row since moving to 176. And we've also just kept gaining stronger players and adding them to the row every season. And now we just got a crazy amount of stronger players. So I think top 4 is the definite minimal goal of what we're going for. And obviously at the end, I would like to win the whole thing, and I think we can win the whole thing. I think really our main competition for Row is Echo, and I think most know that. I haven't really played Rages. I saw Rage lost to NA one time, so NA's got to have a decent team. BTX, we've played multiple times and beat. This time they got a little bit better at it, but we were still on top, and that was before adding our new people to it. So I think at the end of the day, I mean, I would love to beat Echo. That would be my main goal. That would be I would love a finals match, EIS versus Echo
Yeah.
for the crown. That would be my dream.
Okay. What do you think about the best of 3 format for the finals match? I personally like
I
it.
think that's the best way.
Okay.
I think that will weed out like a mistake that was made in a certain like what if then it's like one and done if you make a mistake, and then it's more likely the best team should come out on top because you have to consistently do it for 3 matches in a row. Unless you win 2 in a row, then
Yeah.
you're moving on probably. But I think that's the best way for sure.
Okay. Cool. Well, listen, man, this has been awesome, and I really appreciate your time, Dark. This has been, again, I really enjoyed talking a lot more on the management stuff, and I could probably continue talking to you for like more hours about this. But just being able to kind of hear your thoughts on your experience on the, again, obviously huge congratulations on getting a massive influx of new people coming in. And
Thank you.
like we talked about, I can only imagine how much of a relief to an extent that comes down to being able to fill those people in their appropriate places and just feel like, man, I got a little extra to work with now, and you know what? It's all right.
Yeah. I
um,
mean, like I said, I expected Alibaba and them to came in, so I was always excited. I always thought this recruitment was going to be good, but it even exceeded my expectations. I mean, the recruitment is, I mean, it's very big. I haven't seen. You could argue it's just as big as Nor's back in the day, or bigger. Like I didn't expect this much of a power influx of players coming in.
yeah, no, absolutely. Well, let me, as we round things out, I always like to ask any shout outs, declarations, shots you would like to fire.
Shots I would like to fire. Oh no. Um, yeah, WAO gave me a hard time a few times, Captain, because I said G2 teams couldn't compete with G1, but I just want to state that all the G2 teams aren't doing so hot. G1's still on top, and thanks for the new players, Captain.
Touche, touche. Well, Dark, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you making some time for me today. I can only imagine how much work you guys are going to have ahead of you, just managing the new influx and getting everyone sad and prep for Road League. And so maybe I might hit you up possibly about maybe coming in and watching a row match. I know it's one of the things I'd love to do with some of the teams too as well with Road League coming, so I can kind of get myself up to speed on everything because I know it's very difficult to kind of spectate matches if you're not already in the kingdom. And so, anyways, that might be something I might attempt to look into. But aside from that, very much appreciate the time. This is a great conversation, and I definitely wish you guys the best going forward, and a best to all the new recruits that are joining EIS as well.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. Of course, always. All right, that is it for us. Let me know in the comments what you liked, what you would have liked to hear more of, anything you enjoyed in our conversation today with Dark, again, R5 of EIS and 176. And then also let me know who you would like for me to interview next. Oh, there we go, Dark. Who should I interview next? I'll ask you right now.
Who should you interview next? Wow, that's a good question. Wow, that's a great question. Give me like 1 minute. Let me brainstorm here. Maybe Jason and ask him about TFS, or interview maybe Fluffy Waffles or Alibaba and pick their brains at why they decided to leave and why they think players are moving around.
Okay. Well, thank you for the lead. You guys let me know down there. That's going to be it for us. We're out. As always, until next time, we'll catch you later.